Super Meat Boy! Alright, I'll play the clip.
Super Meat Boy!
Better? Yeah, much better. Back in my Cuphead video, wait, that was more than half a year ago? Damn, that hits hard. Where was I? Oh yeah, back in my Cuphead video, I said, and talk about another great indie game, but that's a topic for another video. Specifically, how Super Meat Boy is one of my favorite 2D platformers. Something I'm well aware I haven't talked much about. Well hey, better late than never.
Extra, read all about it. The best burgers in town from all around. People from...
All the way back in 2008, a two-person team consisting of Edmund McMillan and Jonathan McKenty, also known as Team Meat, really have to wonder where they got that name from, began development on their first installment of the Meat Boy franchise, called, well, Meat Boy. A lot of people don't really know that Meat Boy exists. I didn't either, until after I first played Super Meat Boy. Team Meat originally released Meat Boy on Newgrounds. Crucify me or don't, the first time I went on Newgrounds was to play this game. Hey, fuck you two. In Meat Boy, it's your job to get through a multitude of platforming challenges to save your girlfriend, Bandage Girl, taken by the evil Dr. Fetus. And yes, he is a fetus in a jar. I don't know what they were going for. While I think the controls from Meat Boy have aged poorly, the game was a good basis to make its super counterpart off of. The game received a lot of support, enough to have Microsoft reach out to Team Meat to make a sequel for the Xbox Live Store. The team wanted this sequel to pay homage to gaming in the 90s, so it took a lot of inspiration from similar classics like Mega Man, Ghosts and Goblins, and Mario the Lost Levels. And if you know anything about me, you'll know how I feel about Mega Man. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. While this next fact doesn't relate to the game's quality, Edmund and Refinus lived on opposite sides of the country during Super's development when they collaborated on Meat in person. Even if it was just a handful of times. I don't know why, but that fact absolutely blows my mind. Yeah, I know. It's just really weird to hear. Back on the topic. The engine. Instead of using a pre-made retro engine, even if it would help make their game faster and more accurate to original inspirations, the team developed their own custom retro engine that gave the game more of a floaty feeling. I'll explain that later on. They'd originally only planned about 100 levels for the game, but at some point they decided to postpone the game a year or so and end up developing the Dark World levels. If you don't know what I'm talking about, those levels are almost like bonus levels, harder counterparts of a level in the initial campaign. Only unlocked if you beat the aforementioned level in a quick enough time. Now imagine being a completionist for this game. Glad that's not me. To my surprise, a multiplayer mode had been in development, but ended up being cut in favor of being more challenging level designs for extra levels. That's a real shame. Super Meat Boy would have been a great pick for multiplayer. What with its mostly fixed camera angles, I like to imagine an online mode where two Meat Boys race each other to the ends of a level, and whoever gets there first wins. In fact, I'm pretty sure that was the first version of that idea. That would have been a lot of fun. So in summary, Super Meat Boy was released on October 20th, 2010 for the Xbox 360. While a WiiWare version was planned, it was cancelled because Super's size was too big to fit on the Wii console. Sort of embarrassing for Nintendo on their part. Throughout the 2010s, several ports would be released, including for the PS4, the Vita, Switch, PC, and even the Wii U. Anybody know that was released on the Wii U? Yeah, I didn't either. It will receive a lot of praise, and it is even somewhat considered a poster boy for indie games. A real astonishing feat, if I must say. And I can't say it was not deserved. This game is fun, and it absolutely deserves the title as one of the best indie titles out there. Realistically, a sequel would be demanded, right? Well, after a decade in development, hopefully it would be worth the wait. On December 23rd of 2020, Super Meat Boy Forever was finally released. Oh boy, that's a topic for another video.
Burgers, the fries, a shake or a friend. If you're hungry, simply line up at the end. Come on, people, gather round. We got it.
The game begins by introducing us to Meat Boy and his loving girlfriend, Bandage Girl. With such a loving, pestique relationship, wouldn't it just be terrible if something happened to them? Cue Dr. Fetus, our villain, a miserable man, fetus, a miserable creature that nobody loves. Obvious reasons, of course. I'd say never judge a book by its cover, but in this situation, well, one day, out of pure spite and pure malice, Dr. Fetus decides to bitch slap Meat Boy and steals adoring girlfriend from him. What an ass. Meat Boy will and must chase Dr. Fetus all his way through buzzsaws, hospitals, and assault quarry, and even hell. Talk about dedication. I wish I could find someone who did that for me. I'm gonna drop the voice. Anyways, Meat Boy even has to outperform a shit clone of himself called Brownie, who is made out of shit, you know. Brownie didn't give it away. Really taking it literal there. As Meat Boy continues to the top world, the final world instead of levels, Dr. Fetus ends up restoring to kill both Meat Boy and Bandage Girl at the very end by blowing up his life support. An unlikely hero comes to save the day. Brownie! Fuck yeah! And then credits rolled. Man, what a game. After coming from 999, a game consisting of almost nothing but story, it's a real leap to go straight from a polar opposite to pure gameplay with very little story. Even if the story itself is lacking, the small little details that all the references are a huge highlight. Every world's opening cutscene references some other classic indie platformer, whether it be The Adventure of Lolo, Castlevania, or Mega Man 2. Oops, mentioned Mega Man again. I really ought to return to that series soon. We've already discussed the story, so how about we move on to this game's strong suit? It's gameplay?
The ketchup, the mustard, the salt, and the pepper. Pour it on right, guys, we got no extra.
Meat Boy is a 2D platform, but with so many out there, what makes it any different? The movement is floatier in a sense, in order to give the game more an abstract level design. What do I mean by abstract? Well, the controls can be hard to get a knack for. If you get crafty with it, you can find alternate paths across a level, or try different kinds of movement, and some levels in Super Meat Boy are meant to be beaten literally after trial and trial and trial and error. The difficulty is unforgiving on a first attempt, but at the very least, unlike similar games, you have an infinite number of lives, so even with the ball punching difficulty, the game still feels fair, even if you die once, twice, 3 times. Oh, for fuck's sake! The level design is bite-sized. A few levels are small enough for you to finish in just a few seconds, as long as you know what you're doing. But even though they're small, these levels are packed to the brim with obstacles. Take level 6-5, the last level before entering the final boss fight with Dr. Fetus. Naturally, it's one of the longer levels, but it's chock full of tight jumps, buzzsaws, and the like. None of these levels are cheap, but fuck, they're tough. Payoff is absolutely worth it, and that rush of adrenaline you get after being stuck on over an hour on a level and finally figuring out how to beat it, there is nothing else like it. I love that high. You can unlock plenty of different characters to play as, like variants of Meat Boy, Bandage Girl, or other indie characters like Braid or Alien Hominid. All of them have a special gimmick. Gish, another Team Meat property, can stick to walls and floors, Commander Vidya can float vertically for a few seconds, and Jill from Mighty Jill-Off falls slower, sort of like the way Peach does in Mario 2 USA. But how do you unlock them? There are 2 ways: collecting enough bandages or going through special warp holes. Bandages are a collectible you can find in select stages if you can grab the bandage and finish the level without dying. The bandage is added to your collection. Every multiple of 10 unlocks a new character. Then there are 2 types of warp zones. Red warp zone leads to a new character, and if you beat the 3 character exclusive levels, you get to use that character in the main game. With the purple warp zones, you, Meat Boy, are taken to an 8-bit throwback, and are given 3 levels to beat with all 3 lives. You're not given a reward for beating them, but bandages can be hidden in those 8-bit levels, so it is worth your time to check them out. That is, if you can get to them in time. Warp zones are only active for so long. Don't worry though, the timer resets anytime Meat Boy dies, so you have unlimited attempts to reach it, and when you reach it, you can access those levels whenever you want from the world map. Similarly, there is a Dark World equivalent for each level. What does that mean? It's a harder version of previous levels. The last thing we haven't really talked about are the boss fights. The first 3 are basically you just racing against the clock. Usually something for someone like Brownie or Dr. Fetus are chasing you or racing you to the end of a stage. Most of the longer levels have more focus on going fast. In Worlds 4 and 5, you have traditional boss fights. The only thing you have to really worry about is memorize the boss patterns and avoid their attacks. And for the final boss, Dr. Fetus, there's another race against the clock stage. Huh? A pretty generic boss fight, plus a fight you're being bombarded with rockets and buzzsaws, but it's not Meat Boy if it isn't challenging. With the incline of monsters, salt, lava, rockets, buzzsaws, and every other obstacle known to man, the game can definitely be considered a get good game.
Burgers is all we have in mind. We cook the best taste buds in mind. Now put the
Super Meat Boy is hard. I don't think I've nailed that point in enough. Super Meat Boy is stab you and split you on your body hard, with reason. Nothing in this game is cheap. You're taught how gimmicks work before they put them in real use. For a get good game, it's a nice inclusion. The levels don't really overstay their welcome, with the exception of 6-5, but other than that, it's pretty balanced. 6 plus regular worlds, 6 plus dark worlds, and the warp zones. That's a lot of fucking levels. As a consumer who only paid about $15 for this game, I felt pretty satisfied with the campaign and bonus worlds, even if I barely touched Dark Worlds before and probably won't again. So with everything I said so far, I'll give Super Meat Boy a solid 8 out of 10. There's a reason I always come back to this game. It's a get good game at its finest. All I can do is recommend it so you can go try it for yourself. That's it for tonight. I've been Marabo. You've been the viewer. Stay safe. If that's Echo calling about rent, I swear to God.
Marabo, where the frick is Virtue's last reward?
I'm working on it!
Oh.